Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and welcome to Let's Get Classy, Creating Positive Interactions with Infants and Toddlers webinar. On behalf of Early Learning Coalition and our education team, thank you to all who participated in our previously presented webinars. And just to remind you that you can find all the recordings for the previously presented webinars on the ELC website under training videos. So let's begin, and we would like to start out by introducing ourselves. So my name is Agnieszka Bodhi, and I'm one of the quality and education coaching specialists working here for Early Learning Coalition of Broward County, serving providers and children and our wonderful families here in our county. I was born in a small city in Poland, in Europe. I got my Master's of Science in Education in Poland, in my country. I am class certified observer, MMCI trainer for infant, toddlers, and pre-K ages. I have over 20 plus years experience in early childhood education, working a little bit in Poland before I immigrated to London for a little bit in England, New York, and Florida since 2004. I also work as a preschool teacher and director, so I love to teach, and I do know how hard you guys working in your centers in all capacities and all your roles you play in your centers. So next, I have a pleasure co-presenting with my wonderful, fabulous coworker, friend, and co-presenter, Ms. Stephanie. Hi, Steph.
Hello, good evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Templin, and like Miss Agnes, I've had many different opportunities to work with the children inside the classroom as a teacher. I've also worked as a coaching specialist in Broward County for the past 3 years, along with the ELC. I am also a class observer for the infant, toddlers, and pre-K age groups, and I am also certified to teach MMCI group coaching with infants and toddlers and pre-K. So I have also lived in Florida for 5 years now, and I have a fun, lovely, and oh so challenging 3.5-year-old daughter.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. So next we're going to move on to webinar housekeeping. So as you know, for those who participate before in webinar, we have this GoToWebinar control panel. So if you click on the orange rectangle with this white arrow, you can either open or close the GoToWebinar control panel, which have a lot of different functions. For example, you can click on the questions triangles so you can type any questions or comments you might have throughout the presentations, because we want you to get involved and participate, interact with us. And then also don't forget to download the handouts. We provided us lots of handouts for today's presentation for you to use in your classrooms. So just simply click on the handouts triangle, and then list of the handouts will drop down, and you can click on each individual handout, and then PDF file will allow you to download those handouts to your device. So don't forget those handouts. So next we're going to talk about attendance, credit, post-test, and evaluation. So remember that all ELC Broward trainings are for in-service hours only. All participants must complete both the post-test and the training evaluation survey to receive a certificate of participation in Learning Management System, the new system LMS. So participants who arrive more than 15 minutes after the training has started will not receive a certificate of participation with in-service hours. Participants who leave before the training has ended will not receive a certificate of participation with in-service hours as well. So remember, you have to come on time and not to leave our training before it ends. Please be prepared to arrive on time and stay until the end of the training. In order to be marked as attended, you must log in onto the computer using your email address or download the GoToWebinar application on your smart device. Upon completion of training, again, remember, post-test and training evaluation survey will launch in your LMS account, Learning Management System. You can scan the QR code here with the camera on your phone to access your account. It will take you straight to your account. Please complete all the information in order to receive your certificate of participation in the learning management system. So next we're going to go over preparatory interest, which is the policy of the Early Learning Coalition of World County, that if the instructor have a vested interest in any product, instrument, device, service, or material that might be used in the learning event, they must disclose this interest to the learners. The instructors do not have vested proprietary interest in any of the content, materials, or resources presented. If there is a breach of this policy, please contact us at elcbtraining@elcbroward.org. So what we have in our agenda for tonight's presentation. So first, Stephanie will talk to you about what is class and why are the teacher-child interaction are so important. Then she's going to give you some great ideas. How do we facilitate positive interactions with infants? Then I'll take over for a little bit to talk to you about how do we facilitate positive interactions with toddlers. And then Stephanie will talk to us about how we practice reflections, how we plan for to work with our children in the classroom, what do we change, what do we consider of improving with our interactions with children. So we have plenty great informations for you. So our learning outcomes for tonight's presentation are three main ones. So we're going to recognize how to facilitate effective responsive interactions with infants. We're going to recognize how to facilitate effective positive interactions with toddlers. And then, like I mentioned, Stephanie will tell us how to reflect and list ways to reflect on interactions with children. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to focus on positive effective interactions with infants and toddlers because effective interactions lead to better cognitive, behavioral, and social outcomes. So remember, those are very important. And next, Stephanie will take us to a fun icebreaker activity. Then she will explain us what is class and what is learning philosophy. And then she will tell us how do we facilitate positive interactions with infants. And after that, I will take over, like I mentioned before, and we'll talk about how we facilitate those positive interactions with toddlers as well. So take it away, Steph.
Thank you, Agnes. And thank you for the great start to our webinar this evening. So we are going to start with that icebreaker activity that you mentioned. So we're going to get everybody involved. So we're asking all of our participants here, all 56 of you. We see that you're attentive right now, so we want to keep it that way. So we're going to ask you to write in the questions box so you know where it is for the rest of the webinar. So when we ask questions and have some conversations, you'll be able to participate. So your icebreaker question today is simply describe yourself as a teacher in one word. What is one word that would describe you as a teacher? So we'll give everyone a little time to think about your word. And when you have thought about it, you're going to type it into the questions box. Oh, they're coming in great already. Yes, so keep all of those great words coming in. Wonderful. Oh, wow. All right, and this is an activity for everyone. We want everyone's participation so we can make sure that everyone has a chance to be heard and to participate with us for the rest of the webinar. So we can see here we have some great answers coming in. Yes, keep putting them in. I know it takes a little bit of time to type and think, so it's all right to take a little extra time. Just keep going. So we have motivated, hyperactive, outstanding, encouraging and kind, attentive, active, empathetic, entertaining, engaging, willing and dedicated, effective, passionate, caring, experienced, patient, motivated, energetic, loved, learning, a role model, professional, amazing, active, and dedicated, responsible, funny, and dedicated. All these words are amazing. So these responses are really what we would call a classy teacher. Many of these responses are what is needed for positive teacher-child interactions. So much of class is what you're already doing, while we're going to work to enhance the frequency, duration, and intention of what you're doing into the classroom. So thank you for all of your vast and creative responses. It seems like we have a great teaching team here. And we have a few more answers coming in. We don't want to leave anybody out. We also have helpful, caring, loving, kind, passionate teaching, respectful of the kids, loving, kind, nice, energetic, and respecting everyone. So those are wonderful things. And we hope that you also see some of these great words that we found in this word cloud here that we also believe exemplifies a really wonderful education teacher, but you've done that in the questions box already. So thank you so much. But I want to say that I believe you're all very inspiring. You're all my personal superhero. My child's in preschool right now. I've been a preschool teacher, so I know how hard it is to be that dedicated, passionate, caring, loving, empathetic teacher. So kudos to you, and I loved all of your answers and hearing from you, so thank you. So we're going to move on and start with our first video clip that we will become introduced with the Teachstone organization and what the class tool is. So what I'm going to need everyone to do though first is to take a moment to go find a piece of paper, a Post-it, a little scrap paper to write on. So we can something to write with, of course, because we're going to ask you to jot down notes in some separate groups so we can kind of dissect what we see and hear that's really important in this video. So I'll give everybody another minute to put in that, get that pencil, get that paper, get a favorite pen, get a marker, a Sharpie. I'm all into Sharpies. Okay, so starting with Miss Andrea, and going all the way down to Miss Lucy, we are going to ask you to take notes on what you notice the teachers and children doing or looking like while they're interacting. So in other words, if your first name begins with the letter A to L, that you're in group 1 and you're going to take notes about when you see the teachers and the children, what they do, what they look like when they're interacting, so we can see what it looks like. And now if you are named with the letter M, like Maria, all the way to the letter Z, you're in group 2 and you're going to write about and take notes on what information or research did you hear that or find to be important. So let's give this a try. The power of interactions. Okay, so after watching that very informative video, really discussing the class tool and its overall idea and impact it has on teacher-child interactions, we're going to ask group one. Remember, your name begins with A and ends with or A all the way through the letter L. Your group one, that's your first initial. We're going to ask you to put in the questions box now. What did you notice when the teachers and the children were interacting? What did you see? What did they look like? So what did these interactions have in common? So what did you notice? So we're going to give group one a little bit of time to think about that and put it into the chat box. And just as a reminder to everyone, it's 7:18. You have to be logged into GoToWebinar by 7:15 in order to receive full credit for tonight's course. So be sure that you attend the entire webinar this evening. Okay, great. So Kathleen, thank you for popping some things in, and Linda and Nicole, very good observations. So we noticed that they were happy, they were smiling. The children really paid attention. They were engaged, and each child was engaged individually. They were engaged and happy. Both the teachers and the children were happy. There were happy faces, and the children also, and with the children also, they were smiling. And we found that interactions matter, and we could see those interactions and how they were creating these positive experiences for the children. The teacher included their activities to participate in what more student encouraging, a lot of feedback. Great, Lizette, great observation there. And the teachers looked like they were enjoying themselves. Absolutely, Linda. Isn't that wonderful to see? Everybody was happy and smiling. And the children were able to express themselves. They were participating, like we said again. And they were just smiling and really showing their interest. And in your observation, everyone had a connection. So group A, give yourselves a round of applause. Kiss your brain, however you choose to celebrate. You did wonderful. Those are all wonderful observations on what those teacher-child interactions look like. Okay, group B, that means your first initial begins with M, like the name Maria, and you go all the way to Z. So your task was to write down some information or research that you found to be important. So what did you hear? So group A set the standards high. So let's have a lot of feedback in that chat box. So we'll give everybody a moment of think time and typing time to start putting in their feedback about what information or actual research did you find to be really important while learning about this tool. And thank you everyone who still continue to put in your observations about the children. You are absolutely correct. Very important that they were sitting next to the children on their level, giving 100%. Oh, and we now have some Madeline from group 2. Thank you so much for starting us off. We have some observations coming in saying that interactions matter, those teacher-child interactions, how you interact and talk to the children and engage with them. That's how they learn, and you can measure at this objectively with the class tool, which is not subjective. It's not what I think or you think. It's what the tool expects, and it's certain behaviors that we look for to know that children are able to learn in that classroom. Oh, group 2 is putting in a lot of things now. Wonderful. Each activity looked planned and organized to engage with the children. Absolutely, planning and organization is a big part of the class tool, making sure that there is no wait time for children are always engaged. Teachers need to be interested about the activity along with the children. And research shows that teachers are the key ingredients to learning. June, I love that. Absolutely. You are the key ingredient to learning. And that's how the children are going to learn more, when you interact more with them for longer and more frequently and with more meaning and intention. So everyone, group 2, you did a wonderful job also. I wish we could continue on this conversation, but we want to continue on to the rest of our content. So we're going to go to our next slide here and just dissect the anagram of class. What does class stand for? So it's simply the C and the L is for Classroom Assessment Scoring System. So we have classroom, assessment, and then just scoring system. So it's actually very simple anagram. So just simply, we're utilizing the classroom assessment scoring system. If you've ever had a class observation, that is what it is called. If you're a school readiness provider or Head Start provider, or you utilize the class tool in your own private centers, that is what class stands for. And then finally, we're going to look at the expectations for the classroom for all 3 age groups. You can see there's 3 age groups for our class tools that we focus on. And we're going to look how it's organized. It's organized by really focusing on warm and positive environment with trusting relationships, that's safety and security. And then we're looking for those daily routines that are organized. There's no disruptions. If any, they're very minimal and very little wait time. And then finally, we want to see that our children are supported to learn concepts, develop language, and connect ideas through dialogue and play. That engagement you saw, the teachers engaging with the children, that was how they work to help them learn concepts and connect ideas through playing along with them. So we have a little pop quiz just to make sure that everyone's ears are open and ready before we dive into the content. So I have my first poll for you all, and it is asking us, what does the class anagram stand for? You're going to see that poll launch on your screen. You can choose any of the options that you find is the correct one and just submit. If you're not able to submit, sometimes you have to minimize your screen and then you'll be able to choose your option. So we want to make sure that we get everyone's involvement. So please make sure that you vote. So are we looking at class as the classroom language scale, classroom assessment scoring system, classroom acknowledgement of select standards, or class literacy student scale? What do you think? All right, we're at 60% voted, 62. We're going to ask for a few more votes to come in. There we go. We're getting a great sense of the answer now. And we're going to keep that open for 10 more seconds. And let's close our poll. Wonderful level of engagement, everyone. Thank you for everyone who has participated. I think this is one of my highest polls yet of participation, so thank you. I know not everyone can, because some of us might be driving or it doesn't work on our screen, but you can pop in your answer into the chat box as well if that works best for you. So let's close that up and share the results. Interesting, but I would have to say the majority wins. 65% of you remembered that the class anagram stands for Classroom Assessment Scoring System. Nice and simple. What is it? It's a scoring system that we talk about low, medium, and high, taking an assessment of your classroom. So remember, it's Classroom Assessment Scoring System. So thank you everyone for voting. And let's start with our first domain, which is our infant domain. And look at the age group. We're going to note that it's for children from birth to 18 months. So that is the age group for this tool. So we're looking at newborn babies all the way to 18 months. So we're going to look at how we're going to facilitate positive interactions with our little infants here. So this domain, the overall idea of this tool is called responsive caregiving, and it's broken down into 4 different parts to ensure that teachers and infants are having warm, supportive relationships. This is the key to our learning goals today. So we're going to see how they break it down for us and divide it up. So we have relational climate, teacher sensitivity, facilitated exploration, and early language support. So we're going to move right into the first one, which is relational climate. And what does it look like? This is what we noticed in the video. The teachers are physically close to the infants. They're shown affection. There's laughter and smiles, calm voices. You communicate your intentions. That means you're going to tell the child what you're doing before you act on them, such as wiping their nose. And there's a lack of adult negativity. So what actions can we take to enhance and have a more positive relational environment in your classroom? Well, in this picture, you can see we're going to get physically close to the infants and share their experiences. So join them during tummy time or when they're on the floor playing with a variety of toys, and try to distribute your time as much as possible with all the infants in the room. And then we're going to show those positive emotions that we mentioned in the questions box. So, of course, we want to take the time to smile and laugh with infants, be gentle, warm, and calm. Even if our face is covered with a mask, depending on your program, we can really read a lot from your eyes. So you can always keep smiling. You can see that in your eyes. So we also are looking to enhance freely showing verbal and physical affection. So you want to really remember to always speak to the infants in that affectionate tone, using those positive verbal affection words. Give hugs, back rubs, gentle touches, and pats to the child. And then we're going to show respect for the infants, these little people. We're going to let them know what you're going to do before you do it. So before you pick the child up, you're going to be in front of the child and say, I'm going to pick you up because it's time for your diaper change. So those are some things that we can do for our relational environment. And now we're going to look at that second subgroup, which is called teacher sensitivity. And what does that look like? So this is when the teachers are quickly and effectively responding to the infant. So there is not a lot of wait time. The teachers are aware of each infant in the room, and they're very attentive to the infant's cues. Verbalizations, nonverbal cues are just similar for children across many different backgrounds and abilities. So we do have to still keep in mind that children at this age have their own cues or ways of showing their caregivers what they want and feeling and needing at the moment. So you might have to try a few different strategies until you find what that cue really represents and means when that child is new to your program. Okay, so we have another little pop quiz poll. We're going to ask you to see if you can recall, what is the infant class tool age level? So what age level is this tool intended for that we're talking about, the infants? So we're going to launch this poll, give you a moment to think about that question. The infant class tool, responsive caregiving, that's that big overall idea, domain, they like to call it. What is the age level it is intended for? Children who are what age? Are we looking at children who are from birth to 6 months old, birth to 18 months old, 3 weeks to 24 months old, or none of the above? So pop in those answers because it's very important that we're able to know how old a child is when we can include them in the infant tool. All right, everyone, keep voting. We want to get everyone's responses in because it's really important to make sure that we know what our group is thinking. So please make sure that you can vote, or you can put your, like Nicole did, you can put your answers in the questions box if you're not able to vote. So thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to give it 5 more seconds for anybody else who still hasn't voted. And we're going to close. And we're going to share out our results. And it looks like the majority wins again. So at 69%, 69% of you have great listening ears on this evening and remember great details, because the tool that we're talking about when we're talking about these experiences with infants, we're talking about infants who are from the birth to 18 months old. So 0 to 18 months old. So I would like to say thank you to the majority, 69% of you who answered that correctly, and everyone else, thank you so much for participating and taking that risk and throwing out your answer. So let's continue on and talk about how we can be more sensitive to our infants' needs. So what are we going to do? So like we talked about those cues and preferences, we're going to learn about those and carefully monitor the cues so you can really respond effectively and efficiently. And you're always going to continually adjust your response based on the child's reactions to your attempts to meet their needs. So as we were saying, it might take a few different strategies or approaches to know what will be successful for each infant, since each infant needs different things at different times. And when we're being really sensitive in the classroom, we are keeping an eye on all the children in the classroom. So regularly check in with the infants, you call their name, speak to them, stay aware of their cues by turning your body easily to look around the classroom, how you position yourself. And then you really want to acknowledge the infant's emotions. They're going through a lot of emotions, and that's how they express themselves, positively and negatively. So we want you to be validating these emotions and letting them know that their feelings matter. So whether it's positive or negative, their feelings do matter. And then we want to acknowledge those cues in a timely manner as best we can. So help those infants feel so safe and secure. And that's how you do it, by letting them know that you are aware of their needs and quickly addressing them. And then finally, we're going to look to develop individual routines so that the classroom is a predictable place for the infants. So you're going to have those consistent individual supports for infants. So this helps the infants trust you and know that you want to make them feel calm and happy. So when it's time for one infant's particular nap, they know the routine, and when you come to get them, they know what to expect is going to happen. So we're going to take a quick look at a video for our infants here. So we're going to be engaging with these little infants, and we're going to see how this teacher just demonstrates positive relational climate and teacher sensitivity. So let's take a look and see what this looks like in a classroom. Okay, so that was a quick look at our relational climate and teacher sensitivity. We saw that there was many smiles on the teacher's face. She was on their same level. She provided them eye contact. She checked in with them, used their names, adjusted her body so it seemed that she could stay aware of all the children in her care. She quickly also addresses and acknowledges the different children in response to each child. Most of the time, she's also seems to be a secure base, because we see the little girl who's a little apprehensive about that video camera slowly move closer and closer to her for her safety. as she's not quite sure how she feels about that camera. So it really appears that we can see a lot of great behavior markers and activities happening here that really establish that relational climate that's positive and teacher sensitivity. So now we're going to move on to our third area, which is called facilitated exploration. So this is what we were mentioning in the video about Teachdom, where you were all noticing how engaged the teachers were. They're taking an active role in the infants' experiences and intentionally providing them with support and opportunities to guide engagement. So how can we better facilitate exploration in your classroom? Well, it's very important that we start, of course, by play and talk with the infants throughout the day. So move around that classroom and be consistently involved with the infants. You want to talk to them when you're diapering, bottle feeding, about what's going on between you and the child, what's going on around you. Sit with them and join in their experiences. So if they have a rattle, find a rattle and play with the rattles together, or read books together, or even build with blocks, whatever they are interested in, because it's very important to watch and follow their interests. So focus on their interests to help them engage in those learning and exploration opportunities. So for example, if you're reading a book and the infant looks at a rattle, ask the infant if he or she would like to play with the rattle instead, and wait to move the infant who is focused on playing with a toy until he or she is finished. Let them fully engage with that toy, because they could be on the cusp of learning and practicing a new skill. And then we want to imitate our infants' actions and then go a step further. So what that means is that while we're playing with our infants and mirroring their actions, doing what they're doing to motivate them to continue what they're doing and help practice their skills, this also helps them go a little bit further and help them see what their actions look like. And also by watching you, they can learn about other ways to use materials. And then we want to provide infants choices whenever possible. There's a few opportunities, of course, when we are able to do this, such as when we're able to give infants choices supporting their independence and following their interests, such as you could say, look at all these toys, which one would you like to play with? And show them a few toys, like a rattle, a doll, a ball, etc., and let them choose what they would like to engage in. And then we want to really stretch those experiences to help them learn how to do things on their own. So we're going to interact with the infants to get more out of the experience than they normally would if you were not there, because remember, the teacher is the key ingredient. So if an infant's playing with a jack-in-a-box and can only push it down but doesn't know how to open up, but you're able to model that for them, they are able to learn how to crank it themselves and pop it out again. So they're learning that independence on their own. And then always very important to continue to pay attention to those cues of the infants actually becoming overstimulated, because sometimes we get really excited when we play with infants. So we do have to notice when we're getting too involved with the infants' play. So you want to pause to notice if the infant's reactions to your actions as you're playing with a noisemaker, do they look at you? Do they turn their face away? Or do they no longer have interest for what you're playing with? And are they looking for something else? All right, now, before we go into the final area of the infant domain, which is early language support, we're going to get a preview of what that sounds like and can look like by watching our infant video called Baby Talk. So really listen to how she communicates with the infant in her care and all the different words that she utilizes.
Look at the circle. Oh, you found a lot of books. Do you want to see what is inside the book? This one are the puppies. Roof, roof, roof. You want to taste all the books? You want to have a taste of all the books? Okay.
So what we saw and heard with this teacher is, first of all, we saw even a lot of teacher sensitivity as in facilitation. She was really following the infant's interest of the books and looking for those cues while looking through those books. And she provided the infant choices. She imitated the infant, and she also labeled and described things about the books and about what the child was doing. There was back and forth conversation, even though the child couldn't speak in specific words. She would say something to the child, give a pause, and then let that child make a vocalization. And there was a repetition of attempts of language from the infant. He was making lots of different noises to comment along with that teacher who took the time to speak so much to the child while they're interacting. So that is what we are looking at when we talk about early language support. So we're going to intentionally expose infants to language and vocabulary. So what we can do to better support early language development in your classroom. So the first thing is consistently expose the infants to language. When I was a toddler and a pre-K teacher, I talked all the time, and that's what we need to be doing in the classroom. It's so important to describe what you're doing during routine care, such as diapering or changing meals, so the child understands and can connect abstract words with actual actions and movements. We're going to also imitate and initiate sounds with them to help them expand on their vocalizations, keep encouraging them, and then we can introduce new sounds by verbalizing them to the infants. So you can add new words to conversations, and don't be afraid to use complex language with your infants. And then we want to label and describe objects in the classroom, such as how the teacher was labeling the books and labeling what she saw inside the books. So you're going to use the child's interest, the infant's interest, to maybe the different objects that they're exploring or pictures in the books that they use. And those are what you're going to label and describe, what the children are noticing and interested in. And then finally, we want to have that modeling of that conversation, that feeling of serve and return. So you want to look and listen for attempts of communication, and then give a pause and then respond with increased attention. So for example, for nonverbal infants, you want to just make a pause, make eye contact before you're continuing your talking in your conversation, so they understand that pattern within language. All right, so now we're coming to the end of the infant domain. So we want to see what you think this is important to recognize and how to facilitate effective responsive interactions with infants. Do we do that by having teachers build connections, by sitting close to them on the floor, making eye contact, joining in their activities, or all of the above? So we are going to put out that poll right now. So let us know, how do we recognize and facilitate effective responsive interactions with our infants? So you can start your voting now. Like I said, if you're not able to vote, I know Kathleen's not able to vote and some other people, you're adding your answer to the chat box, which is excellent. So thank you so much. All right, and look at this. I'm so proud of these results, everyone, because everyone, we got 100%, all of the above. So this is really exemplifying that we're all on the same page and we're all really understanding our first learning outcome and what it takes to have effective interactions with infants and what they look like. And these are some examples. So all of the above is correct. So kudos to everyone. I'm very proud of you all. And now we're going to do a short activity. So this is a fun new activity we're going to do. We're going to watch this little clip of the infants in this classroom, and we're going to provide some feedback to these teachers about how they could bring more positive class interactions and with their infants. So if you're a coach or a fellow teacher in this classroom, what would you change or recommend, and what can we do differently? So let's watch this quick clip now of our infants, And as soon as you get ideas, you can put them right in the questions box. What could be missing? What could we be adding to really enhance our support of classy interactions with our infants? What do they need to look like? Okay, everyone. So what would we recommend to these teachers to really enhance their experiences and interactions with the children to demonstrate more responsive caregiving for that 0 to 18-month age group? So we're going to brainstorm together. So what would you do in this classroom to support these teachers? Try to be more age appropriate, absolutely. And then we notice that some babies are following the camera, absolutely. So that does affect how they behave. And use appropriate language. I would even say, absolutely, we can take that a step further and say we can use full sentences, and we can also bring language to the second half of the room where the younger infants seem to have been. There was no communication happening along with that teacher. Oh, everyone has some really great ideas. Work to call each child by their names and show them the book. We want to see more enthusiasm and more connection. Absolutely. I could not read enthusiasm on either teacher's face, nor see any type of connection or security between the infants and the teachers in that clip. And providing choices. Excellent, Madeline. We want to see those providing choices and giving the children choices so we can follow their interests and follow their leads. And try to get more interaction. Yes, so let the children have choices, interact in the materials that they're looking for, and then you can interact with them there, because some infants are so young, and like we said, we want to be age appropriate. There's no need to break down these lessons for them, and it's not until they're much older that they can tell the difference between subject areas, of course. So there's no need to divide the curriculum into such segments such as block learning or language or shapes, because you might think they're learning about that color or that triangle, but what they're really trying to learn is a new skill that they might be really working on, and you might miss that opportunity to support that skill. So thank you so much for being awesome mentors in this classroom. Really great feedback. You are infant class professionals in this webinar this evening. I have to say you all did an excellent job. I'm going to turn the next portion of our presentation over to Miss Agnieszka.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was so much great information and strategies and ideas how to facilitate positive interactions with infants. So now let's move on to the toddlers. So as Stephanie mentioned in the beginning of her part of the presentation, children from 0 to 18 months are considered infants. So children from 19 to 35 months are considered toddlers. So those 1 year old and those 2 years old, all of those are toddlers. So what makes toddlers different from infants and preschoolers is that they are learning to act as independent individuals, but they're still very independent on us. So we have to pay close attention to them. So as a toddler teacher, what do you think? What could you do to get those meaningful interactions between those toddlers and you as a teacher? What you could do? Can you give us some ideas and type in the question box for us? And so we can talk about some of those ideas. If you are a toddler teacher, what would you do? Because we know that toddlers learn by exploring with their whole bodies, right? They go everywhere, they climb in everywhere, they put everything to their mouths, they exploring with their all senses. So what should we do to provide those meaningful and safe interactions with the toddlers? We should provide some hands-on activities, that's right, so they can explore by themselves and they can touch everything safely. Build vocabulary, right, by exposing them to language, to have them the conversations with them. Thank you, Miss Nicole. A lot of hands-on activities, right? Yes, they are big explorers. They are very independent. Talking to them a lot, have sensorial experiences for them around the classroom, listening to them for the cues, right? Being attentive, nurturing, warm. Read them the storybook to expose them for the language, to help them with the language development and vocabulary, right? Great. Great answers. Activities using 5 senses, that's right. So they can explore with the touch and then try some safe materials that they can put to their mouth. Showing them love, right? Creating that positive climate, being very nurturing, warm, responsive, and respectful. Those are all wonderful ideas. Sing to them every day and listen. Yes, we want to touch all of the sensory and senses. Okay, well, thank you so much for all those wonderful responses. So let's move on to the toddler domains. And guess what? In toddler domains, we have 2 domains. And in infant, we have only one, the responsive caregiving. But in toddlers, we have 2, emotional behavior support and engaged support and learning. So let's start from the emotional and behavioral support. So how does that look like? That you as a teacher, you help those children to develop warm and supportive relationship and experience excitement about learning, right? And you develop independence in them and participate in classroom activities. So here in toddler domains, we have 5 different areas we call dimensions. We have positive climate, negative climate, teacher sensitivity, regards for child perspective, and behavioral guidance. So next, we're going to watch short toddler video with some examples how building relationship and emotional and behavioral support look like with the toddlers. And then we can talk about it a little bit. So let's watch. Okay, so in this wonderful video here, we could see some evidence how wonderful building relationship strategies this teacher showed us here. This emotional behavioral support was evident by her paying attention, close attention to both children, right? She kept calling them by their names. She kept eye contact. That's an example of showing respect to a toddler. She was very gentle, nurturing. She was holding them on their laps, and she was very focused on them, on each child, right? As they shared the communication and they were building that relationship between the 3 of them. So we have a perfect example here how to build that relationship with toddlers. So let's talk about that first dimension, which is positive climate. So the teacher have this emotional connection, this respect and enjoyment demonstrated between teachers and children and other children with among each other. So what can we do to improve this positive climate in our classroom? So first of all, we want to join in children's play, right? So you as a teacher, just get involved in playing with children, go down there on the floor with them, roll cars back and forth with them. And since some children need support to engage in imaginative play, join in them and allow yourself to model to them and expand their play by giving some suggestions and ideas, and laugh with them. Be always enthusiastic and smile, laugh with children, enjoy fine moments with them. Children will likely enjoy the classroom environment if you communicate how much you enjoy spending time with them, right? It's going to be contagious. Laugh is contagious. And model and encourage respectful language. When you speak to children, use words to communicate that respect. For example, please, thank you, you're welcome, to teach this respectful language. We have to model it. Call children by their names and encourage them to use respectful language to each other, and explain what you are doing before physically moving children. For example, say it's time to change your diaper. So remember, before you pick up child, you always approach the child from the front of their bodies and you pick them up, but you signal them what you're going to do. I'm going to pick you up so we can change your diaper, right? And then then also help children feel special. So help children feel welcome in your classroom, nurtured and special in your classroom at all time. And like I said before, position yourself at their eye level when speaking to them, have that eye contact, and show children that they have your full attention by approaching them with warmth and orienting yourself always towards them, and establishing that eye contact, which is very important to show that respect to children. Next area, next dimension in the toddlers age is negative climate, which we don't want to see any evidence. So the level of expressed negativity, such as anger, hostility, or aggression exhibited by teachers and or children in the classroom. So we do not want to see evidence of none of them. So I just wanted to highlight here that the negative climate is not the opposite of or absence of positive climate, but the presence of specific negative behaviors. So we do not want to see evidence of any of those. So let's go to our first poll when it comes to the toddler age, and I will ask you here, what do you think if the statement is true or false? Toddlers whose caregivers consistently notice and respond to their needs are likely to become more willing to take risks and explore by themselves. But what do you think? So please cast your vote. True or false? So far, so good. Very nice. We have 60% votes. They are coming very quick. Stay engaged. I know it's late. Thank you so much for staying with us this evening. Okay, a few more seconds. Okay, so we're going to share results, and majority of you, 89%, says it's true. That's right. Toddlers toddlers whose caregiver consistently notice and respond to their needs are likely to become more willing to take a risk and explore. Right, because we as a teacher, when we consistently notice and respond to their needs, those children feel safe. They know that we are out there for them, that they can count on our help, that we go and nurture them and help them. So they more likely going to take risk and explore by themselves because they know there's nothing to be afraid because we are right there for them. Wonderful. Thank you so much for voting. So let's move on to our third area, third dimensions, which is teacher sensitivity. So in this dimension, describe how aware and responsive we are as a teacher, and not how nice we are as a teachers to the children. Cues of attention and support. So teacher sensitivity addresses both cognitive and emotional needs. So we As a teacher, we anticipate where the children may have challenges during certain activities and provide appropriate level of support. So let's see how can we improve in this area and be more sensitive to children's needs in our classroom. So get to know each child. Every child does not participate or interact in exactly the same way, right? So understanding each child, their needs helps teacher to individualize their responses and interactions. Also, be always available to children, since young children feel free to explore when they have a supportive adult nearby, like we talked about it when we voted for the poll. Help them understand that you are available to support them when needed. For example, you might say, I will sit beside you in case you need me. And be always attentive to their cues. Children learn to trust teachers to provide them with support when teachers respond consistently to individual children's cues and needs, just like we ask you during the poll. Acknowledge emotions. Help children know that having strong feelings is normal by acknowledging how they feel. For example, that made you angry. This helps validate their emotions and helps them identify their feelings, which will help with soothing themselves later on, right? And then recognizing their own and controlling their own feelings. So then watching for nonverbal behaviors. So observe nonverbal behaviors when working with children by their body language and facial expressions. You help children who show difficulties with understanding or participating in activities, and then understand children's feelings. So match your feelings, emotions, or mood to children's needs when responding to them. For example, smiling to encourage children and having a serious face when a child is sad about another child taking away a toy. So remember, all those are very important. So let's move on to our next area, which is regard for student perspective. So what does that look like in the classroom? That you as a teacher intentionally and consistently place an emphasis of children's interest, you paying attention to what they are interested in and motivate them and of the point of view, and you consider of their point of view. Teachers promote children's independence here and by providing them with choices and help them learn through active exploration. So we are regarding their perspective and going along with them. So let's see what we can do to increase this regards for child's perspective in our classroom. So be flexible, because you know they want to explore, they are so independent already. So when possible, adapt schedule and activities to meet individual children's needs and interests. Put in on music and dancing. When children begin to dance during that story reading, don't keep them and tell them, no, we're going to dance later, first we finish story time. What they want to dance, let them dance. Provide opportunities for self-help, since young children love to do things for themselves, especially toddlers. Think about ways they can help around the classroom in meaningful ways. For example, setting the table, clean up play materials, and don't get angry when there will be some accident like spilling milk or things like that. Let them learn on their mistakes. And allow children to choose pace, their own pace. Allow them to work at their own pace when they are engaged in activities, because this allows them to opportunity to master skills involved in completing tasks. So that's going to be helpful for them. Allow freedom and movement, since they are learning through active exploration. Plan activities allow for movement and physical motions at all times. Help children make choices. Provide children with opportunities to make choices and decisions that guide their work and their own activities. This lets teachers you learn more about their interests and abilities. And encourage peer perspective taking. So help children begin to understand others' viewpoints by talking with them about their friends' feelings or what they can do to help them feel better. So, and guess what? It's time for another poll. So, what do you think about this statement? Is it true or false? Providing toddlers with consistent expectations help them develop self-regulation. What do you think? Is it true or false? Okay, the votes are coming. We almost halfway. Providing toddlers with consistent expectations helps them develop self-regulation. And we're going to share. And thank you very much. Wonderful, 95%. Cast the vote that it's true. Yes, that statement is true. We can connect it to our second learning outcomes, which is how to facilitate positive interactions with toddlers. So by guiding children's behavior, providing them with clear expectation and consistent expectations will help them to develop their self-regulations. And we're going to talk about next area, which is behavior guidance, and all of those strategies that we can improve in this area by being proactive and support children positive behaviors, but also help children understand classroom expectations and manage classroom that enable children to self-regulate and actively participate during activities. So here are some ideas to effectively guide children's behavior in our classroom. So again, provide clear expectation and be consistent, right? Use simple and specific language so children understand what you expect. Example, say, we build with blocks instead of saying, don't throw the blocks. And then model and redirect behaviors. So model behaviors by showing children how to have gentle touches, respect classroom materials, and another, you have to model how to behave because they don't know. We are the one who have to show them what we expect, what kind of behaviors are acceptable and desirable, right? And then be always consistent. Responding in a consistent manner to behaviors reinforces what the classroom expectations are and helps children to understand. When we consistent repeat the same expectations, they're gonna eventually learn. And provide a strategy, so help children know what to do when they become upset, to help them regulate their emotions. So a quiet area to calm down. It's very great to have in a classroom giving children words to say when someone takes their toy. So give them the words to express their emotions, right? Label the emotions. And be proactive and plan. So anticipate times when disruptive behaviors is more likely to occur, and to plan for them. So be prepared with alternative activities for some children and provide reminders before activities start. So remember, have that schedule, have those classroom rules, introduce them to there, and be consistent. And plan ahead and be organized. Have activities ready and available for children throughout the day to help them remain engaged in the classroom experiences. So we never pre-cut things and let children wait for us. There should be no managerial task done throughout the activities with children. We have to have all the materials ready, be prepared, and there is no time lost, right? So being prepared with songs and books and games can minimize those disruptive behaviors because they don't have to wait for us while we just preparing the activities for them. So that's very important. So the next domain in Toddlers group is engage, support, and learning. So teachers help children develop warm, supportive relationships, experience excitement about learning, right? And develop independence and participate in classroom activities. So teachers here facilitate activities that enhance children's thinking, reasoning, and verbal skills. So they are learning all these skills. Teachers build on children's knowledge of the world and encourage persistence and motivation throughout the activities. So we are very intentional here. So in toddlers domain, engage, support, and learning dimensions are facilitation of learning and development, quality of feedback, and language modeling. So let's quick move on to facilitation of learning and development. So what does that look like in our classroom? You take an active role in classroom as a teacher in activities that provide intentional support that guides children's experiences and understanding. Teachers connect classroom experiences with children's lives outside the classroom and build on their skills that children have developed to help them actively engage in activities and learning in the classroom. So how do we better facilitate learning and development in your classroom? So we get involved in activities with children. We just don't give them activities, we get involved. So as children play, we walk around the room and talk to the children about what they are doing. this way we also model language. We help them discover different ways to use materials by making suggestions or asking them questions. We build on what children are doing, so we encouraging children to practice problem solving, build connections from past learnings, and enhance thinking by building on what children are actively engaged in. And we comment and ask questions about the children's activities, what they doing, how they doing. So next we'll be asking many questions. So ask those questions that directs children attention to the activity and help them make observations related to the activities. For example, asking which car drove faster or fastest, which building is it's taller, and then apply concepts to the real world. Encourage children to think about other ways to apply what they are learned. Asking children questions to help them think about how to connect classroom concepts to their own experiences provides opportunities to expand on their understanding, right? So we can ask many questions when we are having activities with children, talking about different foods. We can ask them, do you like French fries? Do you remember what the French fries are made from? Potatoes, but do you know what other potatoes form we have? Do you remember we have mashed potatoes for lunch? That also potatoes. So we can expand on children's knowledge and children's likes and dislikes throughout the activities in the classroom. And then actively involve children, provide children with materials or opportunities to be physically involved in learning, building, drawing, throwing. So ask children questions and allow them to share responses or verbally practice in activities. So remember, when you ask children questions, you pause and you wait for their responses, and then you can follow up with another questions. So make the most of routine times also. Remember those teachable moments throughout the routine times and transitions. Talk with individual children. Remember for throughout the routines like diapering or meal times, we still have those teachable moments. We still talk to the children. We can embed questions and learning opportunities through those times of routines and transitions. For example, during mealtime, we can ask, do you have more apples or do you have more crackers? So we can expand our children's thinking throughout all of these transition times and daily routines. So next, let's watch how one of the toddler teachers, Miss Kisha, have this wonderful activity exploring avocados to demonstrate that facilitation of learning and teaching. So let's watch.
Should we make a discovery? Should we check and see what's inside the avocado? Huh? What do you think is in here? What do you think is inside? Inside the avocado. Andrew, you're working on getting inside the avocado? Look, Andrew's opening up his avocado. Let me see, friends. Oh. You are experimenting with rolling your avocado because it's so round. You too, Mia? You're going to roll it around the table? You helping Mia with your fork? You want to use it on your avocado? Let's see.
So as you could see in this short video clip, this teacher effectively facilitated learning of development because she gave those children hands-on experiences, right? She gave them some plastic spoons and forks so they can open the avocado and see what is inside. She labeled the avocado. She named the avocado. She described what's the shape of it. There is a roll around the table and it's rolling around. So she gave those children hands-on experiences. So remember that children are more likely to learn when they are physically and verbally involved. So she was talking to them, explaining and labeling, and she guided the opportunities of learning exploration to children, and she enhanced their cognitive and problem-solving skills, right? So Children get most from activities when teachers integrate the concept across activities and relate information to children's lives and experiences. So this teacher talked to the children in this video about the avocados and how they taste. So she really was very effective with the facilitation of learning. So let's talk about our next area, which is quality of feedback dimension. So here is teacher respond to children's efforts and work in ways they expand their knowledge or help them accomplish a task. So you as a teacher, you provide this physical assistant or hints, little clues to help children engage in play or learning activities and perform at higher level and sustain their attention. So teachers provide effective, specific feedback that allows children to understand the process of learning. So how can we enhance the quality of feedback in your classroom you provide? So first of all, opportunities to give feedback all throughout the day. So there is many opportunities throughout the day to give children feedback during classroom activities, routines, and transitions by providing them hints, little clues, expanding children's understanding and recognizing their accomplishment. Then we want to focus on children's efforts. So we focus on children's accomplishment and we recognize their efforts when providing feedback, because remember, when we are providing those recognition, they are going to be just so happy. They will for sure wanted to please us again and show us how well they're doing. So providing specific statements about their work helps give the child individualized recognition and knowledge of the actions that help accomplish the task, and it's very motivational for the children when they're praised a lot. Ask children to explain their thinking. So when children answer a question, ask them a follow-up questions. For example, why do you think that? To help them start to understand their own thinking. Also create learning moments, those teachable moments, respond to children with new or expanded information about their experiences, and ask questions, demonstrate an action, or give information to facilitate new understanding for children, and scaffold the learning. So provide children with the necessary level of support throughout those clues, those little hints. For example, saying, put your fingers in the holes and press to cut. Or assistant, for example, physically helping a child to cut. So you can either provide assistance by giving the clues and telling them what to do, or physical assistance by showing them how to cut with the scissors. When they have difficulty answering a question or do not understand a concept, you can do those two, you can assist them those two ways. By physical assistant or verbal assistant. And encourage persistence. Encourage children to persist in them play and keep trying when they encounter difficulties. For example, saying, you are trying so hard to make a long train track. I think you can do it. Let's try it again. So next area and the last dimension in the toddler group is language modeling. And oh boy, how very important is that area, because you as a teacher, you have to model that language so they can enhance their language skills and develop those language skills. So you as a teacher want to intentionally encourage and respond to and expand on children's language. You model language by having meaningful conversations with children, repeating children's words, and extending their communication attempts, and describing unfamiliar words for children. So what we want to do to enhance that area of development in language modeling in your classroom, we engage in conversations with our children. So we encourage children to use language by asking open-ended questions, by responding to children's attempts to communicate, and by extending back and forth responses. We use words to describe actions. So we build children's vocabulary and language skills by labeling or linking actions to words. So we use self-talk to describe what you are doing. I'm pushing the car, or I'm going to set up the table for lunch for you, or I'm going to take you and change your diaper. And we also use parallel talk to describe children's actions. For example, parallel talk is sort of like being a sports commentator and describe what is going on in the football field, right? So we are, as a teacher, we describe what is happening in the classroom. So we describe them like little Josiah is playing with Eva, and they are setting the table for pizza restaurant. So you are explaining what is happening in the classroom to give children that language. And then provide time to respond. Listen attentively to what children say. Wait for children to respond first instead of asking another question or commenting right away. Just give them the time to respond. Provide language to use. Speak in complete sentences using variety of words. Provide children with words or phrases to say to extend children's understanding and use of language. For example, encouraging child who pointed to say, I want the ball, please. And then repeat and extend responses. Repeat back what children have said, and then expand on their language by introducing new words or concepts. If a child says baby, you can respond by saying, you are feeding the baby. And then also label or name objects around the classroom. So help children learn new words by labeling or naming objects that they are exploring. So describe events in ways that they can understand. For example, when a child is playing with cars, a teacher might say, you are driving the car. And this slide is my favorite. I will encourage you to take a screenshot because this is a very great example. How can we repeat, expand, and extend on children's language? So when the child say more wawa, we can repeat first and say more water to give the child a proper language. Then we can expand. Do you want more of your water? And then extend. You want more water? It's so cold, wet, and delicious. So this is a great example how we can improve in that language modeling area. So let's talk frequency. What is the frequency? So one of the three steps in the process in the class 2 is measure, so the quality of interactions to create a system that enables data-driven improvement. So the measures, this measure step is when we talk about frequency of positive effective interactions. So here we're talking about frequency that capture the quality, amount, and or durations of each indicator. So the frequency of positive interactions are measured in frequency. So how often we have those positive interactions with our children, what is the depth, so how meaningful those conversations and interactions with children are. Are we just saying, oh, beautiful, good job? Or we are having those depth conversation and meaningful conversations with them, or how long they are last. So the durations of those interactions, conversations with our children, these all are very important. So when you are observed by class observers in your classroom and you are see some of those key descriptors and you see some of them sounds like few, barely, no, none, never, seldom, that means you are in the low range of those interactions, and we do not want to be in low range. We strive to be in a high range, but if you see some of those key descriptors like sometimes, generally, but, however, occasional, and so on, we are in the mid range of those interactions. So we okay, but we still want to strive to be in those high range of interactions with our children, because the end goal is the children's outcome and how we prepare them for the future and for the kindergarten and how they're going to be successful. So we want to have this high range interactions with children, those positive, effective interactions. And when you see some of the key descriptors like many, often, frequent, consistent, always, clear, effective, fully, and so on, that means you are very highly effective with your interactions with children. So that will be all about the toddler effective interactions. So next, Stephanie will take us to reflect. How do we reflect on our interactions with children? What do we lack of? What can we enhance? How we can enhance of those interactions? What can we do? What we plan for next day, maybe for tomorrow? What are we going to do tomorrow in our class to enhance those interactions, those positive beautiful interactions. So what do we do, Stephanie? What do we do next?
That is a great question, Agnieszka. So we're going to reflect on what we want to do for tomorrow and for the following week, because the more reflective you are, as they say, the more effective you are. And that is a great quote from Peter Hall and Elisa Samora. And it's so perfectly stated. So we have actually 6 different reflections for you to choose from this evening. So we're going to encourage you to take a screenshot and be able to choose what reflection question that is right for you to start on tomorrow. And then as you think about, say, if you chose reflection number 3, thinking about appropriate ways to include children in tasks for a week, then you can give yourself a reflection and work on how are you going to help them understand the learning process. So these are all excellent reflections. So take a photo, take a screenshot so you can choose one that you can work with tomorrow. We also have a wonderful reflection sheet as a handout and a resource that you could always fill out. And if you want feedback on that, you can feel free to email that to me or Miss Agnes. So we have achieved tonight's learning outcomes. So let's review them again. Through our polls, we learned that we need to have warm, responsive relationships with our infants and how they look. That we were all of the above. We're sitting together closely. We're smiling. We're encouraging the children to play and engaging with them. And then we talked with Agnes about the toddlers and how we help build warm, supportive relationships and experience that excitement about learning through those effective interactions and those planned activities that really engage children in all their different senses. And then we also mentioned frequency, because we also said at the beginning of this webinar, a lot of what you're doing is already class-based interactions. However, we wanted to make sure that we know that we need to do them often for long periods of time and make sure that they are meaningful to whoever is part of that interaction. And then we reflected on a part of the day that we are going to choose a reflection question to choose an area of one of the subjects discussed this evening to work on and enhance the frequency of tomorrow. And then once you feel you've accomplished that, you can go on to the next one. These are our references that we used to create this webinar this evening. And we also just want to continue to remind you to click on the handouts and remind you it's on that little triangle right there. You just click on the title, the blue title link, and it will open in your computer or your device, and you just save it to your computer or device. And certificates. So after you are marked as attended, your post-test and your training evaluation survey will launch in your LMS account. This is a manual process, so it will take some time. It won't instantly pop up as soon as this webinar is over. It could take some time. It is a delayed response to the system once the attendance is submitted. So you can be ready though and scan this QR code with the camera of your phone to access your account. So when it is available, you can see it. If you notice that you are not a marked attended by tomorrow morning, you have not received your post-test, and then you're followed by your survey evaluation, followed by your certificate, then you can email us at elcbtrainings@elcbroward.com. And then we want to remind you all of our TA support that we have. You can scan that QR code, which will bring you to a TA support form, which will guide you in all the different things that we have to offer in different class and tools, different class age groups, and much more. And here's our contact information. Like I said, if you complete those reflections and want some feedback, always feel free to reach out to us. You can take a screenshot or a photo of that. And then we just want to say Thank you so much for taking your time and being with us this evening, and all of your attention and all of your enthusiasm and participation in this webinar this evening. Agnes, is there anything you'd like to say before we say
Yes,
goodbye?
yes, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's late, you're probably tired after all day in your centers, but we do appreciate everything you do for our little ones. Thank you so much. We look forward to present for you many more trainings, and thank you, Stephanie and Tiffany, to be with me tonight, and it was a pleasure of working with you, Stephanie. So thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Absolutely, Agnes. And good night, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Have a great evening.